sir, pwede atong punta sir, pati sakit sir. Pagkain lang sir. Okay na sir. Thank you sir.
Okay. Ang maganda to. Thank you. So we begin by hearing reports. Del, mauna ka.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. Gusto ko lang pong iulat sa inyo na handa yung ating NDRRMC mga 2 days before pa nung bumagsak yung bagyo. Kinausap ko rin yung mga OCDs all over itong katamaan, OCD 8, 5, 3, Memaropa, at saka 4A, Metro Manila. At kinausap ko sila nung the night before na magbabagsak yung bagyo. Handa po sila, Mr. President. And I'm very happy in the preparations that they made. Ngayon, kinausap ko rin yung mga armed forces at napag-alaman ko na sila ay handa rin. Meron silang about 4,000 people na directly involved sa pag-aayuda sa ating mga tao at mga nakaantabay silang mga sasakyan sa mga aeroplano, helicopters na handang lumipad pagkatapos po ng bagyo, pagkawala ng hangin at tutulong sa ating mga tao. Anyway sir, si Yusik Halad ang mag-report ng namin, yung ating ginagawa ng NDRMC kasi medyo marami rin po yung report niya. Hindi ko lang alam kung nandito na sila sa VTC. Pero kung hindi po, mamaya-maya po siguro pagka lumabas sila na po.
Well, anyway, it was a prominent picture doon sa TV giving the rundown of the things that government was doing and is doing still. Okay naman lahat siguro ang it's sort of a yung almost an automatic response of government in cases like this. This is not the first time. What I told the Bicolanos there, we landed sa Ginobatan. Sabi ko sa kanila, by design of creation and by an act of God, when He created these places in the Philippines, you choose to settle down along the flatlands of the area. So you face the window, so you face the storm every now and then. Sabi ko sa kanila, hindi ito matapos. Wala itong katapusan ang purgatorio ninyo dito. Either lahar at itong bagyo. Tsaka sabihin ko na lang, mauna na ako. Ang reklamo nila doon, Secretary Villar, yung kasi Mato man to, pero I think it's the construction that are getting the raw materials from sa Ginobatan mismo. At yun, every wash out water from the mountain dadalhin talaga doon sa baba. But anyway, sabi ko, we will look into it. I will ask the Secretary Villar and Secretary Simato who would have a knowledge about these things. kung may magawa sila. Second is the immediate financial and cost assistance. Nasabi ko doon sa kanila. Kung may paibagay ang gobyerno, I was not sure, sabi ko. I was not categorical in the financial assistance, but sabi ko, pagkain, aabot sa inyo. So, yun lang mai-report ko sa inyo kasi only the things that transpired during my coming over here. Sinong gustong report? Si Secretary Anyo. Go ahead.
Magandang gabi po, Mr. President. Ang i-report ko po yung naging paghahanda ng ating mga local government units. As early October 28 po ay nagpalabas na tayo ng advisory sa mga local chief executives sa probinsya, municipality, cities at barangays para makapaghanda. Ang mismo mga barangay captain po natin umikot sa mga lugar na tabi ng dagat, tabi ng ilog at nagbandilyo para po sa preemptive evacuation. Malaki po yung coverage ng bagyo, 10 region, 41 provinces, 51 cities, 613 municipalities, at 12,832 barangays. Ang pinakamalaking tama po talaga ay ang probinsya ng Catanduanes at ng Albay. Sa lahat po ng local chief executives, 1,047, lahat-lahat po sa binanggit kong lugar, 10 lang ang unaccounted natin. So 99% po ay nasa kanilang mga lugar upang mag-supervise. Yung 10 na wala ay na-identify na namin at ito ay aking pagpapaliwanagin. Ang mga local chief executives po ay nakapag-convene ng kanilang mga local DRRMC upang magtalaga ng Incident Management Center, Search and Rescue Teams, Clearing Operation Teams, Medical Teams, at nagsagawa po ng Preventive Evacuation. Sa kabuuan po ng lahat ng LGUs na banggit ko, 175,479 families, total of 619,544 individuals. Hindi lang po ito sa Bicol, sa pangkalahatan na po ito. Ang ating Philippine National Police naman ay nakapag-deploy ng 2,959 search and rescue personnel. Meron pang 15,892 on standby. At ang Bureau of Fire Protection, mayroon pong 1,363 assets and fire trucks at 80 ambulances. Sa ating pong mga casualties, ang pinakamarami po ay ang Albay, lalo na po ang Ginubatan, nagtala ng 10 namatay. Ito po ay dahil sa lahar overflow na siyang talagang naglubog sa almost 100 plus na bahay. Sabi nga po, hindi po yung bagyo ang nakakamatay. Yung epekto nito katulad ng flash floods, lahar at saka yung tinatawag pong mga landslides. Meron pong natala na namatay sa Sorsogon, isa. Sa Cam Norte, isa. Sa Cam Sur, 2. Sa Masbate po, 0 ang casualty doon. Sa Catanduanes po ay nakontak natin yung ating provincial director ng PNP at ang report niya ay may 4 po na namatay, 5 ang injured at meron pong 1 missing. Sa Albay po ay meron pang 2 missing dito sa lugar na nagkaroon ng lahar overflow. Sabi ko nga po ang pinakatinamaan ay ang Catanduanes sapagkat about 10,705 na bahay po ang sinasabing totally damaged. About 3,100 ang partial at ang problema nila po doon ngayon ay tubig at pagkain. Yung kanilang abaca crop ang talagang tinamaan. Kung naalala po ninyo noong 2016, nagbigay po kayo ng 50 million assistance nung meron pong Typhoon Niña nung pumunta tayo doon para tumulong sa pagbangon ng abaca farming. So yun po yung kanilang palagay ko na hihilingin uli upang pagkaroon ng assistance sa kanilang mga constituents. So ang nakita lang po naming problema dito ay ang lack of emergency communication facilities dito po sa parte ng Catanduanes. Kaya medyo umabot po ng 24 hours bago nagkaroon tayo ng contact. So yun po sa NDRRMC, ang susunod po namin plano ay ma-equip itong mga island provinces ng mga alternate communication system. At sa parte naman po ng COVID, nakita namin na kailangan mag-invest tayo sa pag-prepare ng mga evacuation center na compliant sa minimum public health standard. Mga evacuation center na merong extrang handwashing area, adequate drainage, at sufficient quantities para sa mga alcohol and hand soap. So gagawa na lang namin po ito ng paraan para sa susunod ng mga bagyo ay handa tayo. Yun lang po, Mr. President.
Before that, what is the present setup of communication between the central government and the local governments? Or if at all, anong klaseng...
Ginagamit po natin yung ating mga cell site. Meron din naman pong satellite communication, pero kapag din po pala masama ang weather at malakas ang ulap, ay hindi rin po ito very effective. Kaya po ang gusto namin alternate, balik tayo sa high frequency radio communication. Mas sigurado po ito kasi ilalatag mo lang yung antena sa puno, may contact na po, lalo sa mga island provinces.
I remember this situation, sir. Kasi nung bago lang tayo, sabi ko na government should not rely on dito sa mga cellphone. Pag nag-breakdown daw or any emergency for that really matter, umiinit yung linya, mauubos and you cannot make a contact. Overload. So government has to get the information fast. Ang sabi ko, yun na lang ang panahon ng tatay ko yung radyo diretso high frequency. Ma-implement mo sana yan. We will look for money before we make the exit. Yung communication sa defense pati DILG. Yun ang importante. Yung the Communist Party very much active. And they did try to overrun some of the barangays or municipalities. We have to get the information right away. I cannot rely on yung sa cellphone. Pati yung sa in Davao, talagang sabi ko, wag kayong magpasa ng information sa cellphone o sa text. Ayaw ko yan. Yung talagang diretso ka para yung radyo, para medyo sigurado. Kindly prepare a blueprint for this so that maybe by the next sessions, the succeeding ones, we can get the money for that and complete the project at least before you make the exit. We have a very limited time. Now, itong sa ang dito yung transportation pati daan. We have to be ready for the massive repairs of roads and infrastructure. Yan talaga ang pinakamabigat dyan. So it's moves on DPWH, and may tulay doon na putol eh. I forgot the name, but
Opo, sir. May report po ako, sir. If, short.
we saw it, may tulay na putol doon. But we saw including not only the lahar, the rocks talaga. And people, they were complaining about the unabated itong activity ng quarrying, pero out of control. So if there's no plunder of how to do it properly without prejudice to the inhabitants downwards, mahirap ito. It could lead to a more serious problem later on. Baka talagang mabaon ng isang munisipyo, isang delikado. I was quite surprised that that was the first complaint that they presented to me was yung quarrying. So isa rin yan. And well, of course, the others, kung pupunta ba si Hala dito? Nakikinig dong. Meron ho doon sa ginubatan nung nilandingan ko, Secretary Harad, yung kailangan lang konting pera, pati pagkain. Sabi ko, dadating ka agad yan, and kindly expedite the delivery doon saan ako naglanding. Ginubatan. Pero sa papasok, it's not in the proper town itself, but it's little bit further. Doon yung river the river no more, because bato na pati sa lahar and good that the people were, or at least you have to credit the foresight of the local officials, that they warned the residents well in advance, and there was an evacuation way long before it actually happened. So for that alone, I'd like to thank the officials of Ginubatan. So we'll start with the report. Mag-jack in point na lang kayo, guys. Sige, DPWH.
Magandang gabi po, Mr. President. Una po, bago po dumating yung bagyo, nakapag-deploy na po kami ng mga heavy equipments. Nakapag-pre-position na po kami. 776 heavy equipments and vehicles, 518 equipment, and 4,900 personnel ang naka-deploy bago po dumating yung bagyo para sa road clearing operations. At as of now, ang remaining closed sections lang po is sa CAR, 3, sa Region 3, isa, sa 4A, 1, sa 5, 9 remaining closed road sections. And meron na po kaming initial cost of damages. Ang malaki talaga po sa Region 5 at sa 4A meron din. Sa roads sa 4A, 900 million. Sa bridges, 5. At sa flood control, 160. So sa Region 4A, almost 1.1 billion. Sa Region 5 po, ang cost of repair for the roads is 558 million. Sa bridges, 452 million. Sa flood control, 1.8 billion. Sa public buildings, 352 million. And other infra, other buildings is 1.358. So ang total po so far sa base po sa assessment namin is 5.6 billion ang cost ng damages dahil po kay Typhoon Rolly. Medyo nagka-problema lang kami sa Catanduanes dahil mahirap po yung communications doon, but meron po kaming initial reports. Currently, yung mga main roads are impassable. The Catanduanes Circumferential. Opo.
PowerPoint?
Ito po yung sinasabi. Ayan.
Okay.
So, ito po yung sinasabi ko yung na-deploy sa Rolly. The 9,900 personnel tools. So, next slide please. So, ito po yung mga road section. So, kaninang umaga nung nang-present kami, mas marami. Pero ngayon nabawasan na ho. The remaining road sections, mostly sa Region 5, which is 9 road sections, due to landslide and also karamihan po yung mga utility poles na nag-collapse. Para ma-clear namin, kailangan din namin ng specialist from the electric cooperative. So doon medyo nade-delay din kami dahil may specialization din sila sa paglipat. Doon yun din na problema namin sa Catanduanes. Medyo limited yung manpower din doon dahil apektado rin yung mga personnel. Pero 24/7 po kami nagtatrabaho para ma-clear kaagad. Next please. Ito po yung binanggit ko po kanina, yung damages. As you can see sir, malaki talaga yung out of the 5.6, malaki po yung sa Region 5, 4.5 billion. Consisting of the roads, for 558 million, the bridges 452, flood control yun malaki yun 1.8 billion, at yung mga buildings 1.358, and public buildings 352 million. So next slide. Ito po yung specific areas of yung specific roads na block sa CAR, the Claveria Calanasan Cabugao Road. Ito po yung Talubin Barlig Natonin and yung Baguio Bontoc Road. Yun lang sa CAR. Sa Region 3 po, Nueva Ecija Aurora Road. Yun. And isa lang sa Region 3 at isa lang sa Region 4A. Pero on my latest report, na-clear na po yung Region 4A. So wala nang block road sa Region 4A. Next slide please. Sa Region 5, makikita nyo po dito sa Camarines Sur, itong mga 12 areas, 12 national roads. Yung binanggit ko po kanina, mostly due to utility poles and trees and damaged slope protection. So, yung Naga City, Carolina, Milaor, Minalabak, and Manggiring, Sibobo, Cagsao Road. Next slide, please. Ito rin sa Camarines Sur, Lagonoy, Caramuan Road, Goa, Tinambak Road, San Rafael, Mampiraw Road. Partly passable, but still same issues with the electric posts and continue. Ito po, sa Camarines Sur, Dang Maharlika, and Baaw, Iriga, Nabua Road. So all these areas, sir, ongoing yung clearing operation. So we expect within the next day, makiklear na rin po. And also sa Sorsogon, yung Donsol, Banawang-Gurang Road, it's not possible due to flooding and posts, but we're also ongoing clearing operations now. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned earlier, the teams have been activated. We've installed warning signs sa lahat po ng areas, and we deployed all our manpower. So tuloy-tuloy po. And just recently, may na-receive kaming report na galing po sa Catanduanes. Medyo mahirap po dahil ginamit po namin yung sa PNP. Meron silang communication. So it's very slow. Humingi pa kami ng pictures pero hindi pa dumadating. But it's the same issue. Hindi pa passable yung Catanduanes Circumferential. And a majority of the government and private buildings have been destroyed in Catanduanes. So, may binanggit po yung sa ang PNP kanina na almost 90%. So I think that would be an accurate assessment. But wala pa yung exact number, sir. But based on the initial initial reports na nire-receive, it's a majority of the government and private buildings have been destroyed. And finally, sir, I will personally look into this, yung issue po ng quarrying. Pupunta ako po sila doon at alamin ko rin po. And we will act on this immediately. So, maraming salamat po.
Masusundan ko. I can read this again tomorrow. Kung maghanap na tayo ngayon, start to look for money or to sa ang sunod pag-asa pag-asa NDRRM DSWD Department of Energy, Department of Health and Department of Transportation. Apparently, ikaw ang lahat. But if you want to go ahead, we can reconfigure the...
Magandang hapon ho, Mayor President. Alam nyo ho, mayroong isang text message na circularize nung mga October 30 galing kay Secretary Lorenzana. Sabi niya, better to overestimate this typhoon rather than to underestimate it.
Correct.
And that served as my battle cry. And sa kadahilanan po nito, Mayor President, sir, naghanda kami. Tinignan namin yung mga asset. Kaya nagkaparoon pa rin kami ng postponement and cancellation of operation in pursuit of this magical statement. And I would like to think, Mayor President, that because of this, nabawasan yung damage at perwisyo na gustong ibigay ni Rolly sa atin. Kaya nga ba't dun sa apat na sektor, sa aviation, sa maritime, sa riles, sa kasakalsada, naibsan natin yung problema. Kung mamarapatin po, hayaan niyo hong magbigay ako ng ibang ehemplo. Halimbawa ho, dito sa aviation, kung hindi ho tayo nag-ingat at we did not take preemptive measures, siguro yung nangyari sa mga airport ay naging matindi. Pero we are happy to report that the damages on the Legazpi Airport, Naga Airport, and Birac are minimal. Karamihan ho, mga ceiling board, saka mga splinter classes. Pangalawa ho, sabihin ko na rin ho, importanteng malaman natin yung isang proyekto natin na kung saan meron tayong ginagawang New Bicol International Airport. Natakot ho ako doon, baka yung mga ginagawa maperwisyo at madamage. I'm happy to report, Mr. President, na yung damage lang, ang damage doon is again very minimal, splinter glasses, saka yung quarters ng mga trabador. Other than that, the main structure, both from the passenger terminal to the runway and all the improvements being undertaken are minimal effect and minimal damages. That it behooves me to say that yung target ko ho sanang matapos yung construction, physical construction sa Bicol International Airport by the end of this year still stands. Also, sinasabi lang ng mga, although sinasabi ng mga contractor kung maaari gawin ko first quarter ng next year, sabi ko, the deadline is the deadline. Without sacrificing quality and incurring additional costs, the deadline of completing the new Bicol International Airport will be completed on the schedule which we have set, notwithstanding the arrival of Rolly. Alam niyo, Mr. President, speaking of airports, Legazpi, Naga, Birac, as of today, is back to normal operations. Yung Manila International Airport is back to operation since 10 o'clock this morning. Clark International Airport is operational since 7 o'clock this morning. Subic and Sangli is also back to operations. Sabihin ko na rin ho na yung mga ibang paliparan sa ibang lugar ng Pilipinas ay operational ngayon. Maliban lang sa mga ilan-ilan airports na kung saan ang problema hindi naman yung bagyong Rolly, but yung mga pag-comply sa mga requirements ng local government. But we are going there to make it all fully operational. kung swinerte ho tayo sa paliparan, hindi ho tayo masyadong swinerte sa seaports. Pagkat tinamaan po tayo, Mr. President, sa 3 port, matindi ho yung tama sa atin dito sa San Andres, Catanduanes, na kung saan nasira yung puerto at to aggravate the situation, meron hong roro na nag-run aground. So hindi ho pwedeng magamit antimano yung San Andres port sa Catanduanes. May tama rin ho tayo sa Tabaco Port at Pio Duran Albay. Tinamahan ho yung roro. But I have given instructions not only to determine the cost, but all importantly, to accelerate the repairs and maintenance in order that the connectivity and mobility with Catanduanes, Tabaco, and Albay will be established in the soonest possible time. Doon ho sa Riles, wala ho tayong damage sa LRT1, LRT2, MRT3. Wala ho tayong damage yan. Pero sasabihin ko rin ho, if I may, Mr. Mayor President, as we speak today, yung MRT3, ang speed ho natin ngayon dyan is 50 kilometers per hour. Nung nag-assume ho tayo, Mr. President, during your term, the speed of MRT3 hovered between 25 kilometers per hour to 28 kilometers per hour. Ngayon ho, starting November, tumatakbo na ho tayo ng 50 kilometers per hour kasi natapos na ho yung paggawa ng mga release ng tren sa MRT. Ang ibig hong sabihin dito, yung headway ho, which before was 9 minutes to 11 minutes, nabawasan. Target ko ho, by December of this year, the kilometers per hour speed of our train shall be 60 kilometers per hour. That will be a record achievement for your administration, Mr. President, kasi naibalik na sa original speed yung MRT3. Ibig sabihin, kung mapapaiksi yung speedway, mapaparami yung sasakyan kasi yung turnaround mapapabilis. Wala hong damage sa Riles. Doon sa kalsada, today, pinadagdagan ng LTFRB yung mga ruta at mga PUJs na bumabagtas at tumatakbo sa ating mga kalsada sa Metro Manila. I'm happy to say, Mr. President, that as we speak today, yung public utility vehicle has increased. Tumatama na ho tayo more than 72%, notwithstanding the pandemic and COVID-19. We are continuously improving on this. This morning as of 5 o'clock, yung EDSA busway, yung may dedicated lane, nag-umpisa huling maging operational by 5 o'clock this morning. Yun lang po, Mr. President, in summation, are the developments in the transportation sector in relation to Rolly. Ngayon ho, may bagong bagyong pumapasok, si Bagyong Shoni. Sabi ni Secretary Lorenzana, it's better to overestimate than underestimate. We are doing the same template insofar as Typhoon Shoni is concerned.
But
all,
it is
Mayor
not
President.
it is not as powerful as Rolly. Itong but still it will cause damage sa daan niya. The roads and the bridges ang unang tama niya.
Might pass north of Cagayan. It might pass north of Cagayan between Batanes and Cagayan, Mr. President. So we are hoping that it will really hit that area.
So this is going to report next. Good one, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr.
I'm sorry, but the more handsome guy, Tugadi was nagsalita na kaagad pag na-stress yung isa, he commenced to talk. So hindi tayo magawa. Go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon. Magandang hapon po, Mr. President at Senator Bong and mga kapwa ko membro ng kabinete. Hayaan muna ninyong iulat ko po ang mga pinakahuling mga kaalaman patungkol po sa pagtugon ng inyo pong DOH sa bagyong Rolly. Para po sa ating alert levels as of 3 p.m. Today, nanatili po ang Code Blue sa DOH Central Office at NCR habang nakataas na rin ang Code Blue sa Region 4A or Calabarzon. Ang Bicol Region ay nananatili nasa Code Red. Ibig sabihin po ng Code Red, lahat po ng ating mga opisyal, mga empleyado ng CHD region at ang mga hospital personnel and staff ay atin pong pinapasok. Basta of course ay ligtas naman sila sa pagpunta sa kanilang mga pasilidad. Ito pong susunod naman, ang DOH Central Office at Centers for Health Development ay nagsagawa ng mga sumusunod. Nagbigay ng advisories. Can we have the next slide? Yeah, okay, thank you. Nagbigay po ng advisory sa mga regions that will be affected by the typhoon para sa kanilang guidance. At tayo rin po ay nag-conduct ng assessment ng mga temporary treatment and monitoring facilities upang matukoy kung kailangan mag-transfer ng patients and staff. Nag-alerto rin po tayo sa mga ospital upang masiguro na may sapat na generator sets, communication equipment, at mga critical life-saving equipment. Namamahagi ng assorted medicines and commodities, kasama po ang mga personal protective equipment at ang mga ibang COVID-19 related supplies sa mga apektadong lalawigan through the provincial health offices. Sinigurado din po natin na ang mga health emergency response teams ay available and ready for deployment. Patuloy na nakikipag-coordinate, nakikipag-ugnayan ng mga CHD regional offices with concerned provincial DOH officers and local government units, as well as the disaster risk reduction and management councils at all levels. Patuloy rin nagbibigay ng mga paalala ang inyo pong DOH para sa kaligtasan ng publiko gamit ang multi-media platforms. Next slide. Para naman po sa amin logistical support, kasama po sa aming paghahanda ang pagpreposition ng mga gamot, medisina at mga supplies sa ating mga regional offices bago pa man manalasa ang bagyong Rolly. At ang suporta na ito ay patuloy namin ino-augment. Sa ngayon po ay may humigit kumulang 31 million pesos worth of drugs, medicines, medical supplies, health kits, including PPEs, other COVID-19 supplies, ang naibaba na po sa ating regional offices. Ito po ay nakalaan sa mga apektadong probinsya. Meron din po tayong humigit kumulang 21.7 million worth of commodities naman ang nasa DOH Central Office Warehouse na nakahanda for immediate mobilization. Nakapaglaan din po tayo ng 540,000 worth of hygiene kits and collapsible water drinking containers at 400,000 peso worth of assorted medicines para sa mga LGUs sa National Capital Region. Next slide. Next, please. Ayan, okay na yan. Ang Bicol Center for Health Development ay nagpadala sa atin ng request para sa mga sumusunod na pangangailangan sa kanilang response effort sa 6 na probinsya. Ito po ang Catanduanes, Camarines Norte, Camarines Sur, Albay, Masbate at Sorsogon. Kabilang po sa mga request na ito ay ang mga hygiene kits, chlorine granules, cadaver bags. Sana po ay hindi na magdagdagan. Yun ay ulat po na pumanaw dahil po sa bagyong Rolly. Ang collapsible containers, jerrycans, and first aid kits. Kasalukuyan pong piniprepare ng DOH ang mga request na ito. Para sa 5 probinsya ng Camarines Norte, Camarines Sur, Albay, Sorsogon, Masbate, tayo po ay magpapadala at ng mga 7,500 hygiene kits, at least 20 barrels of chlorine granules, 500 cadaver bags, 7,500 jerry cans, and 1,000 first aid kits. At para sa Catanduanes, the same items po ang kailangan nila, but we are still coordinating for the initial estimates. At sa ibabaw po nito, we have also preposition medicines for the fourth quarter worth 350,000, additional 200,000 worth of medicines, and also other supplies. At para ang total logistics augmentation ng DOH para sa Region 5 ay nasa 1.5 million, at nakapagbigay rin po tayo ng financial assistance to 6 provinces, Naga City, and 3 DOH hospitals in the amount of 20 million. At nakapag-deploy na po tayo ng mga rapid health assessment teams sa Region 5, at base po sa kanilang naunang reports ay nasa 55 million ang total damages sa ating mga health facilities. At kabilang po dito ang pinsala sa Bicol Regional Training and Teaching Hospital na nasa 30 million. Sa Bicol General Hospital naman ay tinatayang nasa 10 million. Samantalang sa ating pong Bicol Regional Diagnostic and Reference Laboratory ay nasa 15 million. Inaantabayanan natin ang ulat para sa estimated damages for Bicol Medical Center, pati na rin sa ating Center for Health Development sa Region 5. At ang next slide, ayon po sa initial na ulat na amin pong natanggap, ito po ang mga issues at concerns sa ating response efforts sa mga heavily affected areas. Dahil sa pinsala ng bagyo, unstable po ang communication lines, power at water supply sa Kabikulan o Region 5. Pangalawa, ang ating mga health personnel sa Region 5 and other affected areas ay nahirapan din makareport for duty dahil sa dinanas na heavy flooding, flash floods at lahar flow. At pangatlo po ay nakita rin po natin na potential problem ang cold chain management para sa ating mga bakuna, COVID-19 test kits, at specimens kung magtatagal ang pagbalik ng kuryente sa mga apektadong lugar, lalo na't may parating pang Typhoon Shawnee. Pero kanina umaga, Mr. President, nakausap po namin si Secretary Alcusi, at minamabuti po ni Secretary Alcusi na maibalik kaagad, mag-normalize ang electrical supply sa mga naturang mga lugar. Para naman sa ating po mga temporary treatment and monitoring facility, as reported yesterday, ang mga pasyente at mga yaman tao pangkalusugan sa mga isolation and quarantine facilities ay nailikas na po sa mga iba't ibang mga hotels, hospitals, and other safer facilities. Para sa 5 mega TTMFs or isolation quarantine facilities, ito po yung Ninoy Aquino Stadium, Rizal Memorial Stadium, Philinvest 10, PICC at Philippine Arena. A total of 324 individuals were evacuated, 155 patients, and 169 staff. Ang mga LGU, TTMFs in NCR naman, ito po ang Makati, Pasay, and Las Piñas, ay nakapaglipat o nailikas sa mga pasyente mula po sa kanilang mga facilities to designated hotels and hospitals. Sa probinsya naman po ng Albay, ang mga pasyente sa quarantine facility patients ay in-evacuate sa mga daycare centers, public schools at evacuation centers. Ang ating mga teams ay nag-conduct ng post-disaster needs assessment para sa ospital at mga iba pang pasilidad, kabilang po ang mga TTMFs in affected localities once the flooding subsides at pagkalagpas po ng bagyong Shawnee naman. To determine their safety and to provide the necessary assistance, tayo rin po ay magbibigay ng mental health services and psychosocial support to our health personnel directly affected by the typhoon, and will augment staffing upang masigurong patuloy ang pagbibigay ng serbisyong pangkalusugan sa mga apektadong mga lugar. Kami po ay nananawagan, sunod lang, next slide. Kami po ay nananawagan at nakikiusap sa ating mga LGUs, primary responders at sa publiko na panatiliin ang mga sumusunod na mga minimum public health, minimum health standards. Ito po yung sa mga evacuation centers sa lahat po ng panahon dapat nag-oobserba ng kanilang minimum physical distancing na hindi po iikse sa 1 metro sa gitna ng mga mamamayan, at ang paggamit, pagsuot ng mask sa lahat ng panahon, at ang respiratory etiquette, ang tamang pag-ubo, ang tamang paghugas ng kamay gamit ang sabon at malinis na tubig, ang pagtukoy o pag-designate ng mga safety officers para sila po nagmo-monitor ng health status ng ating po mga kababayan sa loob po ng mga evacuation centers. At yun din pong pinag-iingatan yung kinakailangan ang kanilang proteksyon mula po sa mga waterborne diseases na ito po ay madalas mangyari, lalo na ang leptospirosis. Ito po ay nakukuha, nakamamatay po itong infection na ito, kaya kinakailangan ay kung hindi maiwasan, nakabota ang mga tao, yung mga nagtatrabaho para maibsan ang infection, at kung sila naman ay nasulong sa baha at may sugat sa kanilang mga paa at posible ay magkaroon ng lepto, ay kinakailangan pumunta na po kaagad sa kanilang mga pagamutan para mabigyan ng antibiotic prophylaxis. At atin pong binigyan na paalala na dapat pinapakuluan ang kanilang mga tubig inumin ng 3 minuto at lutuin maigi ang kanilang mga pagkain. At ito po ang ilan sa ating pong mga pagtugon, Ginoong Pangulo. Patuloy po ang atin na pakikipagtulungan at pakikipag-ugnayan sa atin mga health emergency response teams, centers for health development at iba pang national government agencies for updates. At kami po ay nakakasiguro, Mr. President, malalampasan rin natin ang pagsubok na ito. At yan lang po akin ulat. Magandang hapon po sa inyo, Mr. President.
Thank you, Secretary Duque. It was a good report. Ang nahalata ko dito sa panahon mo is the surveillance and the vigilance in keeping track of possible outbreaks. I like that, and you've been doing it. That's why I cannot find any plausible or even a meager argument for your suspension. Wala akong nakitang trabaho mo maganda. The surveillance that you are doing is, and the vigilance, public health is amply protected. Who's the next to... Sige lang.
Sir, for the first time po, nakapag-establish po ng communication with Catanduanes kanina around 1:30 matapos po yung special presidential press briefing natin. Unfortunately po, nakaalis na yung karamihan na kasama natin sa kabinete nung nakontak ang Catanduanes. It was the first time nakakontak po tayo. It was through VSAT na pinadala po ng OCD na isinakay po sa eroplano ng Coast Guard. At yun lang po yung ating means of communication at saka yung mga satellite phones. No? Nangako naman po si Yusek Halad na bukas magpapadala ng C-130 sa Catanduanes. Kaya nga po bago mag-report si Sec Bautista, sabihin ko lang po yung mga sinabi ni Governor Joseph Cua ng mga pangangailangan nila. Catanduanes daw po is completely isolated now. Wala silang puerto. The airport po pwede namang paganahin. Wala po silang kuryente, wala silang telepono. Nakontak lang po sila through VSAT at may dala-dala pong satellite telephone ngayon ang OCD. Meron daw silang 2,000 or so pre-positioned food pack galing sa DSWD. pero wala rin po silang waterwork system. Ang pinagkukuhanan nila ng tubig ay deep well pero wala rin kuryente. So I suppose kinakailangan po talaga mag-airlift ng maraming tubig para sa Catanduanes. At yun nga po, gaya ng nasabi ni Secretary Tugade, yung puerto po nila at saka yung connection nila sa mainland ng Legazpi ay hindi po naglalayag ngayon. No? So parang they will be fully dependent on airlifted assistance. So yun lang po, no? Dahil lang sabi naman nila they're so far so good dahil ngayon pa lang naman nangyari. Pero with your permission po, ang pinangako ko rin sa mga taga-Catanduanes, we will try to contact them po ngayon para po makausap po nila kayo kung po pwede po, no? At kung kakayanin po, no? Kasi generator power po sila lahat ngayon doon at hindi ko po alam talaga kung makakakontak ngayon. With your permission, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, yung mga concerns mo, the issues that you raised, better pass it on to the DSWD. Kasi yun yung it's a turf. It is within the province of DSWD. Sila yan eh. Mind you, itong balik muna tayo sa bakuna. Marami kasi akong nababasa na people negotiating. As I have said earlier, during the start of the COVID, they only want one line of authority coming from dito sa task force. Pagbili ng bakuna, the negotiation, manufacture, negotiation, production or distribution is binigay ko yan kay Secretary Galvez. So, only Secretary Galvez is authorized to negotiate or whatever. Isa lang. Ayaw ko yung committee, matagal yan. Pati, I have a great faith in Charlie to really come up with the solutions of the problem. Who's next? Si Roy, ikaw na? Secretary Bautista, you want to make the report now?
Yes, Mr. President. Ilabas lang po yung slide presentation. Mr. President, other members of the Cabinet, magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Next slide, please. Okay, so we proceed first to the situation depicted on the slides. Next slide, please. Are the 8 regions who were directly affected by the pathway of the typhoon. So there are 2,280 affected barangays with 150,982 affected families with 596,660 affected individuals. So apparently, the focus of the DSWD are the regions directly affected by the typhoon. Next slide. With regard to status of displacement, there are 6 regions who have opened their evacuation centers. There are 3,063 evacuation centers open on the 6 regions with 75,293 affected families with 288,072 affected individuals. Those who were camping outside the evacuation centers, 3 regions submitted their data. There are 4,940 families with 17,532 individuals. These are the families, individuals who are residing with their neighbors, with their relatives, or even their friends outside of the evacuation centers, Mr. President. With the status of standby funds and stockpiles shown in the table is the standby funds of the DSWD. This is the cash amount amounting with a total amount of 290,463,305. With regard to the family food box at present, with all the SWD, central office, and field offices, we have at hand 277,749 family food packs with a total cost of 124,040,932 pesos. For the other food items, this includes the hygiene kits. And other food items, these are raw materials that are due for repacking. So there's also a corresponding amount on that with 182.9 million pesos. For the non-food items, this includes the hygiene kits, sanitary kits, tents, malong, plastic mat, among others, with an amount of 283.6 million pesos. As a whole, for the status of standby funds and stockpiles, the total is 881,052,256 pesos. With the actions taken, part of the procedure of the DSWD is 2 to 3 days before the actual landfall of the typhoon, we immediately preposition family food packs and other food and non-food items to municipalities or provinces that will be within the pathway of the typhoon. Then we also deploy our quick response teams purposely to establish communication and apparently provide real-time information to our field office operations center. We also have the continuous coordination with the Regional Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council through virtual meeting for real-time updating and immediate response. That concept is very relevant and very timely because the OCD in a certain region can immediately call or convene a virtual meeting if there are needs that should be attended to by a concerned agency. On our ways forward, continue to provide family food packs and non-food items. Apparently, there are some municipalities that request for additional family food packs, so we'll continue to provide them with those items. Provide camp coordination and management as part of the mandate of the DSWD in all evacuation centers. Conduct case management to affected families so that to determine if they can avail of the other programs of the DSWD to include the assistance to individuals in crisis situation, cash for work, and the sustainable livelihood program. Conduct rapid damage assessment and needs assessment of affected areas. For the appreciation of the President, one of my team on the Field Office 5 joined the RECON at the Catanduanes and conducted immediate damage assessment and need assessment. As a result of which, as mentioned by our spokesperson, Secretary Hari, there will be 2 flights that will be allocated to Catanduanes, bringing therein family food packs and other non-food items. And again, we will ensure that there will be water that will be included on that flight. So that will be The flight will start in the morning and the last flight will be up to 12 noon. We also provide social first aid intervention to affected families and individuals, especially those in the evacuation centers. Also, as part of the mandate of the DSWD, this is in coordination with the Department of Health. That ends my presentation, Mr. President. At maraming po salamat.
That's a good report on the actions taken by your office. I'm quite satisfied with your work in the department. Sino yung gustong sumapag-asa? Pag-asa, do you have something to say?
Yes, Mr. President, our national Director Malano will report. He will cover, number one, the bulletins that we issued from October 29 to November 2, the track forecast for Rolly, since it started as a low-pressure area until it became a super typhoon, and again, going down to the tropical storm category, the hourly rainfall record, and our dam updates. We also have, we are happy to report that our forecast track error is for Rolly is down to 41 kilometers as compared to the maximum of the World Meteorological Organization, which is 120. So may I now call Administrator Malano.
Magandang gabi po sa lahat, Mr. President, honorable members of the Cabinet. Secretary de la Peña said, the focus of my presentation will be on the actions taken that we have for the monitoring of Typhoon Rolly, updates and for dams, and the update for the passage of tropical storm Joey. Next slide, please. We have issued tropical cyclone advisory number 3 tropical cyclone advisory, 21 severe weather bulletins from the start of it entered the Philippine area of responsibility. Tropical cyclone warning for shipping.
For Rolly, excuse me.
Warning is disseminated through email.
Kay Rolly ba ito?
Kay Rolly po. We have issued 11 gale warnings, 5 associated with Rolly, and we have issued 3 watches and 8 warnings for storm surges occurrence. Next slide, please. These are the bulletins that we have issued. Bulletin number 1, issued on October 29 at 11 p.m. Bulletin number 2 on October 30 at 11 a.m. Bulletin number 3 on October 30 at 5 p.m. Mayroon na po tayong signal na binigay dyan doon po sa Catanduanes province. Ang bulletin number 4 in-issue po natin ng 11 p.m. on October 30. Signal number 1 pa rin po tayo noon. Bulletin number 5 31 October at 5 a.m. Ang pinakamataas na signal po natin binigay noon ay 2. Ang Metro Manila noong October 31 ay signal number 1. Nung October 31 at 8 a.m., ang pinakamataas pa rin nating signal na binigay noon ay signal number 2. 1 pa rin po ang Metro Manila. In our issuance of bulletin number 7, October 31 at 11 a.m., number 3 yung pinakamataas natin. Yun yung umpisa natin nagbigay po tayo ng signal number 3, but 1 pa rin po yung sa Metro Manila. Next slide, please. Bulletin number 8, ganun pa rin po. 3 pa rin po yung ating pinakamataas na signal. At ang Metro Manila po ay 1 pa rin po noon. Pero nung bulletin number 9, 3 pa rin yung highest signal natin. Pero yung Metro Manila po ay nasa signal number 2 na po noon. Tapos yung bulletin number 10, pinakamataas na signal ay signal number 4. At kasama na po dito yung Catanduanes and Bicol areas. Bulletin number 11, 4 pa rin yung pinakamataas natin at itinaas po natin to nung bulletin number 13 na 5 na po yon. Ito po yung nag-intensify si Rolly into a super typhoon. Umabot na po siya ng 225 kilometers per hour ang kanyang sustained winds. Ang Metro Manila po noon ay signal number 3 po. Tapos yung bulletin number 14, signal number 5 po yung pinaka-highest na signal. At number 4 po yung Metro Manila. That was kahapon po yun. Next slide. Tapos bulletin number 15, nag-weekend ng konti yung ating binabantayang Typhoon Rolly. Naging typhoon na siya from super typhoon. At pinaka-highest po na signal ay signal number 4, kasama na po yung Metro Manila. 16, ganun pa rin po, 4 yung pinakamataas. Lalo pong umaba or umina yung hangin nung issuance natin ng bulletin number 17. Number 3 na rin po yung pinakamataas at kasama rin po yung Metro Manila. At lalo pa rin po siyang umaba yung strength ng hangin nung issuance natin ng bulletin number 18. 1 na rin po yung ating Metro Manila signal. Sa ngayon po ay wala na po tayong signal. Ang pinakahuli nating issuance ay kanina pong alas 5 at ang wala na pong signal po yon. Next slide please. Ito po yung track ni Typhoon Rolly. Magmula po yung nabantayan po natin yung letra po dyan ay kung kailan tayo nag-issue ng advisories and ng bulletin. Advisories at bulletin. Yung letter A ay depression pa rin siya at depression pa lang siya na noon pa pong October 27 po natin nakikita. At doon po nagbigay na tayo ng initial advisory, pero yung letter D po nakapasok na po siya noon at doon po tayo nag-umpisa na magbigay ng bulletin hanggang sa palapit yung bagyo at gaya ng sinabi ko kanina at pinakamataas nga na signal na ating binigay ay yung signal number 5 dahil po umabot sa super typhoon yung kanyang strength ng hangin. Ang bagyong si Rolly po ay inaasahang lalabas po bukas ng madaling araw po. Yun yung huling yung dito sa Philippine area. Lalabas po siya sa Philippine Area of Responsibility. Ito po yung nasa kaliwang bilog, pangalawang bilog mula sa kaliwa. Between 3 to 5 a.m. po ng umaga. Next slide please. Ito po yung kailan po natin naibigay yung advisories and bulletin po. Next slide. Hanggang sa letter S. Yung huli nating update kung pagmagdali ng umaga pa rin po yung update na to. Next slide please. Ano pa po yung ating ginawa? We attended meetings and press conferences during Rolly. Ang Pag-asa po ay nag-conduct po ng press conference through live presentation through Facebook and Zoom. Dalawa po yung kinandak po natin yung huli po yung kinandak natin nung Sabado ng hapon. At we also attended 4 meetings with OCD in the RMC through a virtual meeting po. Mayroon din po tayong live press briefing na ginagana po every 6 hours at nakatala po tayo ng 13 o update po na tayo through press briefing ng 13 press briefing po doon po sa Pag-asa through Facebook and YouTube. Next slide please. Ito po yung ating nakikitang mga matataas na ulan or heavy rains na natala during the passage of Typhoon Rolly. Noong October 30, yung kulay po siya, 1800. Ano po yan? 2 o'clock po ng umaga po yan ng October 30. Umabot po siya ng 88. Ang significance po niyan is intense po yung ulan na yan dahil in 3 hours lang po yan. Doon sa pinakamataas, yung El Salvador City doon sa Misamis Oriental. Noong pong alas 2 ng hapon, doon sa Tugigaraw, nakatala din po tayo ng 48 in 3 hours lang din po yan. Sa Apare po, 42 in 3 hours, doon po, alas 11 po ng umaga yan. Next slide. Noong October 31, ang pinakamataas na record natin in 3 hours, yung last column, second to the last column po, ay 98 millimeters in 3 hours. Ito po yung sa Legazpi. At ito yung October 31. Yun yung pinakamataas na na-record natin doon sa passage related to the passage of Typhoon Rolly. Next slide, please. Noong November 1, ito yun, yung alas 11 ng umagang record natin, from 8 to 11 ng umaga po to. Doon din po sa Legazpi, na istasyon po ng Pag-asa, ay naka-record po tayo ng 104 in 3 hours. So, intense po, torrential na po yan, yung ano natin ng ulan na yan. More than 30 millimeters in an hour. Next slide, please. At ito yung na-record po natin ng different stations po natin ng Pag-asa, yung pinakamataas na hangin na atin po na-record during the passage of Typhoon Rolly. Doon po naka-record po tayo ng 198 kilometers an hour dito po sa November 1. At bago po, the day before that, 144 kilometers per hour ang ating na-record. Next slide, please. Ito yung sinasabi ng ating secretary ng DOST kanina, na ito yung error po natin. Yung second column po, ito yung forecast stock error in 24 hours. Yung sumunod na column, yung third column po, in 48 hours or 2 days. Tapos yung sumunod na column, after 3 days na forecast, 4 days, then 5-day forecast. At dito po sa pag-track natin ng Rolly, yung forecast error po natin in 24 hours, yung nasa huli po is 41.1. Sabi po ni Secretary de la Peña kanina, ang average na error for all members of the WMO ay nasa 120 po. So, we started in 2015 para kunin po natin yung error at ang aming target po noon is 100 kilometers yung error. Nag-improve po tayo as the time ay elapsed. 41 kilometers yung error po natin dito sa Rolly, 139.4 for 48 hours, for 72 hours is 247.7. Ano po yung implikasyon nito? Kung yung kung yung track po natin ay, kung naging error lang din sana natin ay 20 sa pool yung Manila. So, imagine kung yung binuhos doon sa may Batangas na ibuhos din sa Metro Manila. Siguro ang laki ng pinsala dito sa ating lugar. Next slide please. Ito po yung ating forecast track error improvement. Nakikita po natin from 2014 until 2019 po ay bumababa yung ating error from yung nasa baba, ito yung 24-hour forecast error, 48 yung pula, at yung green po yun yung 72 hours. At ang average po natin for the whole year ngayon na tracking ng bagyo ay 58.7 kilometers yung error po natin sa ngayon. Ay average po sa lahat na nangyayaring bagyo for this year from Ambo until this time. 58.7. Ang 48-hour error po natin is 107 ang average po. Kahit po yung 48, dahil doon sa 24 hours na sinasabi natin yung WMO na average error for all members of the WMO is 120. Kahit yung 48, mas maganda pa rin yung ating error. Next slide please. Ito po yung update ni Sioni at ang location po ng kaninang umaga ay nasa 620 kilometers east of Apari, Cagayan. At inaasahan po nating makaka-apekto ito sa extreme northern Luzon, doon po sa Cagayan or sa Batanes areas. Next slide please. Mayroon din po tayo mga dams na binabantayan po, at makikita po natin in the next slide please. Ito po yung Ambuklaw Dam, Binga, San Roque dito sa may Pangasinan, Ipo Dam dito sa Lorsagaray, Lamesa Dam dito lang po sa may Quezon City. Dito sa bandang kanan po yung Magat Dam, Pantabangan Dam, Angat dito sa Angat, yung Kaliraya po dito sa Laguna o Rizal. Next slide please. So ano po yung nangyari during the passage of Typhoon Rolly? Yung ating elevation ng dam ay yung reservoir elevation ng dam ay 201.78. Nag-increase from yesterday compared with this morning kasi every 6 a.m. kinukuha ko yan. Nag-increase po siya ng 1.1 meters at yung water level deviation, yung pangatlong column po, yung 1.1 meters ang kanyang increase. Although ang normal high water level ay 210 at inaasahan po natin pagdating ng November, last week ng November or towards December ay aabutin po yung normal high water level at the rate the level of dam is increasing dun sa Angat. Pakikita po natin yung rule curve, yung pang 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yung ibig sabihin po ng rule curve elevation is pag inabot po yung rule curve elevation, lahat po ng gumagamit ng tubig doon sa dam ay binibigyan po ng tubig. Unang-una po, ang priority po niyan is domestic for Angat, at ang second priority po dito is yung agriculture, at last priority po yung power generation. So, ibig sabihin po niyan, dahil 201 na yung ating level ngayon, ay nabibigyan po lahat ng nangangailangan ng tubig doon sa Angat. Ang mababa lang po na level ng tubig dito sa 7 o 8 dam na ating tinitingnan ay itong Pantabangan tsaka yung San Roque na malaki pa yung pangangailangan. Yung reservoir water level ng San Roque ngayon ay 252.95 at ang deviation niya from the normal high water level is 27 meters pa po. So kulang pa po yung kanyang tubig. At hindi pa rin po niya naaabot yung sinasabi nating rule core. Yung Pantabangan po ay kulang din po. 22.78 meters ang kailangan pang tubig para umangat at maabot niya yung rule core. Next slide, please.
You think we need another 2 typhoons to fill up these 2 dams?
2 typhoons, baka 3 pa po.
You have money? If you have money, then we can afford it. But if it's always a destructive thing. It's always a typhoon. So, say, go ahead. I'm listening.
Doon po natin nakikita kung gaano ka-importansya din yung bagyo sa atin. Kasi pag walang bagyo, wala din talagang tubig.
I believe you.
Ang pinagpipray lang po natin yung hindi devastating yung bagyo po. Yung magagamit lang po natin yung ng husto yung tubig ng nanggagaling po sa bagyo.
Yeah, your statement is too cavalier. We need the typhoons to fill the dams. Well, in a sense, a cavalier statement, but totoo. I agree with you. After listening to you. Go ahead.
Sige po. Ito rin po yung ating mga bulletins related to sa pagbabaha sa different regions na ating pong for all the regions for the whole Philippines. Ito yung mga nabigyan po natin ng bulletins, Pampanga, Agno, Bicol, Cagayan River Basins. Yung General Flood Advisories ay naibigay po natin sa CAR, NCR, Region 2 dahil mayroon din kahit yung CAR po ay hindi po related yung kanyang pagtaas ng paglaki ng ulan doon sa directly related po doon sa pagdaan ng bagyong si Rolly, pero mayroon din pagtataas ng ulan na naobserbahan doon sa CAR, sa NCR, sa Region 2, Region 3, yung 4A po, 4B, sa Bicol Region, Region 6. Kahit po doon sa Central Visayas ay meron din pong pagtataas ng ulan na atin pong naobserbahan na magkukos din po ng flooding. Yun lang po at...
No. I have one question for you. Who determines what name the typhoon would bear? Sino tigabigay ng appellation ng bagyo?
Yung bagyo po, ang pangalan po, mayroon na po tayong 4 sets ng bagyo na pangalan na yung year na to may set na pangalan from A to Z. Next year mayroon din po from A to Z. Pero mayroon po tayong reserve po pag lumagpas po siya ng 25 tropical cyclone that will affect during the year. Meron din tayong mga reserve names. Sa international name, nagbibigay din po tayo ng pangalan, nag-contribute din po tayo, at ang nagbibigay ng pangalan pag may bagyong dadaan ay yung regional center ng dito sa lugar natin, yung West North Pacific, yung Japan po. Mayroon na nga po nagtanong kung bakit kailangan pa natin magbigay ng local name.
I understand you. Ang aking tanong, because you have the international name for a typhoon, it's always adopted almost everybody. Tayo, we have our own. So, every typhoon that comes in, we baptize him or her. So, sino ang tao nagbibigay ng pangalan? Ang tinatanong ko sa iyo.
Actually po mayroong ginawa na po yan ng nauna po sa amin na nagbigay ng mga contribution kung ano-ano yung mga pangalan. Yung pong sinasabi ko kasi dalawa nga yung pangalan pag pumasok ng sa Philippine Area of Responsibility. Kaya hindi po namin mawawala yung local name dahil yung depression po, yung kategorya po ng bagyo na pinakamababa, tayo lang po yung halos ang naaapektuhan noon. Kaya yung ibang bansa, hindi po sila nagbibigay ng pangalan. Yun yung ano po namin. Dahil pagka hindi po kami nagbibigay ng pangalan, ay hindi rin po magbibigay yung International Center na nasa Tokyo dahil depression lang po yun. Kaya pinapatuloy po natin yung local name dahil tayo lang po yung nagbibigay ng mga pangalan pag yung pinaka-lowest category po ng bagyo, yung tropical depression.
Let us limit our concern dito sa ating jurisdiction. So, if I may add something, pwede ninyong idagdag ang pangalan ni Arturo pati ni Mark. Tapos na si Role.
Actually po, pagka yung devastating yung bagyo ay tinatanggal po natin yung pangalan, pagka halimbawa umaabot na sa billion yung kanyang devastation at yung marami pong namatay, ay tinatanggal po natin.
Wow.
Halimbawa, ngayon po, pagka umabot po siya doon sa 1 billion yung kanyang na damage, aalisin po natin, pero pinapalitan po rin natin ng letter R lang din po.
Doon ka magkuha sa Dilaw. Marami doon. Well, anyway, salamat. It was a good presentation. A bit long, but educational. Because that's the PowerPoint to guide us. Sinong sunod? Anybody here would like to talk?
Pwedeng DFO, Department of Agriculture, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
Can we have please the slide from MDRRMC, please?
Again, sir.
Mr. President, ito po yung updates ko tungkol sa Typhoon ruling. At tatlong parte po itong report po namin. Next slide, please. Ito damages and losses, Mr. President. Then yung na-save natin sa production as a result of the early warning system. At yung third part is the interventions po, Mr. President. Now, going forward, ito po yung update ko as of 5 p.m. today. Our men and women sa mga regions have been monitoring and really working hard to get actual damages. By commodity po, ang production losses na ay nasa 1.7 billion pesos na po. If that would include infrastructure damages, Mr. President. Ang karamihan po dito, next slide, will give you a good indication. Sa next slide, ito po ang palay po, 68%. followed by high value crops 28%, then mais ay 3%. So, totaling again, 1.7 billion. Let me mention, Mr. President, na ito yung kay Rolly. Sa Quinta naman, mayroon tayong damage na 2.19 billion. At kung isama po natin yung Pepito ay 120 million pesos. So more or less po yung tatlong bagyo, ang damage po sa agrikultura ay 4.1 billion pesos po. Next slide, please. So with the Pag-asa advisory that we are also depending on from time to time, Mr. President, meron kaming early advisories na pinibigay sa mga iba't ibang probinsya through our regional field offices. So in terms of yung sa bigas, ay meron tayo na save na 1.071,344 metric tons. Sa mais ay may na-save tayo na 45,703 metric tons. Ang value po nitong palay na na-save po ay 16.9 billion at sa mais po ay 579 million. So, maganda po itong early warning system at ito po ay na-save natin. Next slide, please. In terms of the saved rice areas with volume and value, ito po karamihan ay talagang nakuha natin sa iba't ibang region. Number one po dyan ay ito po gawa ang forecast dati malawak yung pagsamanta ng Bagyong Ronnie, pero na-minimize po sa ibang area. So, next slide will indicate also the corn that have been saved. So, almost 600 million po ang saved. Now, ano po yung ginagawa at response activities na ginagawa po ng kagawaran ng Sasaka? Una, we activated yung national and regional disaster risk reduction operation centers. And we have been working in close collaboration, coordination with national government agencies and local government units and other DRRM-related offices for the impact of typhoons Quinta and Rolly and for possible interventions and assistance. We also closely coordinated with water management-related agencies for flood risk monitoring and dam water releases. The next slide would indicate that we have been closely monitoring the typhoon and the extent of damage it would cause to the agriculture and fishery sector. And we are readying the provision of seeds for rice, corn, drugs, and biologics for livestock and poultry, and fishery inputs for fisheries po. The next slide, ito po yung next slide will give you the seed reserves na handang-handa pag rehabilitation na po. Sa rice, 133,326 bags of palay. Sa corn, ready na rin yung 17,545 bags of corn. Vegetables, almost 2,000 kilograms of assorted vegetables. And assorted fruit trees, ay meron tayo naka-focus sa aming marupa 440,000 seedlings. At ganun din sa livestock po, iba't ibang mga animals from chicken to ducks, swine, goats, sheep, and cattle. And dito sa bandang baba, yung mga feeds, drugs, and biologics, at yung quantity po na ready na rin natin ipamigay, mag-ready na sila. magpanig o mag-alaga ulit. Next slide, sa fisheries po naman, meron tayong almost 6 million fingerlings, tilapia, milkfish, yung bangus, 4 million fingerlings, at iba't ibang mga facilities po. Fiberglass boat, bottoms, set gill net, seaweed propagules, multiple hooks and line, and urban aquaponics, Mr. President. Now, ito yung available resources din ng ACPC, which is under DA, yung Agricultural Credit Policy Council. Meron tayong 300 million pesos under the Sure Aid Program for farmers and fisher folk, wherein a loan of up to 25,000 will be provided with zero interest and no collateral and payable in 10 years. Now, the 25,000 is broken down to 5,000 for emergency and 20,000 for recovery. Another thing, Mr. President, we have 1 billion for indemnification funding, which is available coming from the Philippine Crop Insurance Corporation to pay for the losses incurred. So, ang isang farmer, depende dun sa size ng farm niya, ay mabibigyan ng 10,000 road wells to a high of 15,000 per farmer. Now, we would like also to mention the National Food Authority have already issued the more than 4,000 bags dito sa iba't ibang probinsya, kagaya ng Marinduque, Albay, Camarines Norte, Catanduanes, Sorsogon, and Cavite for relief operations. At ang operation center po ng NFA ay mayroon silang 24/7 operations po. So, nakatutok po sila para dun sa withdrawals by the LGUs. And we still have out of a balance from the quick response fund of 400 million pesos, Mr. President, na ibibigay rin natin for these various provisions, production inputs for crops, livestock and poultry and fisheries, repair of production, post-production and small-scale irrigation facilities, and provision of other assistance in the form of cash or live animals. So, ito po talagang ang mga kawani ng kagawaran ng pagsasaka ay nandiyan nagsisibisyo sa ating mga mamamayan. Maraming salamat po, mga President.
Thank you, Secretary. There. Anybody else? Meron pa?
Mr. President.
Yes.
Mr. President, I am Undersecretary Halad, and I would like to brief the President on the reports from the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council.
But I see the face of Bebot Belio. General Halad, where are you? I mean, i-focus mo muna yung sa mukha mo para malaman namin. Then you can start.
Yes, sir. I'm in the Operation Center of the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council in Camp Aguinaldo together with some of the Cabinet Secretaries, Mr. President.
Kaya nga, ang lumalabas yung mukha ni Belio.
Mr. President, nandito po ako.
Kaya nga.
Hindi po.
Lumalabas daw yung mukha mo.
Nandito po ako sa Isabela, Mr. President. Kasi we are organizing yung Regional Development Council of the Balit Probinsya, Bagong Pag-asa, Mr. President.
Yung ba talaga totoo?
Opo, Mr. President. But meron po kaming ready report, Mr. President, because yung binigay niyong pondo sa amin, download ko na lahat po, Mr. President, and the start of work will be this Friday, and we will start paying out as early as November 15 up to November 20, Mr. President. And focus kami doon sa hardest hit na areas like Region 5, Region 4A and Region 4B, Mr. President. Kasi doon kailangan nila yung mga emergency employment.
But may tanong ko lang, isegue ko. Yung assistance na I give you so many billions to give to the workers by way of assistance. Have you started to deliver it to the beneficiaries?
Yes, Mr. President. Ang payout namin will be at the latest November 15, Mr. President. Including yung binigay nyo pong 1 billion sa CHED na para sa mga anak na mga displaced overseas workers. We were able to enter into a memorandum of agreement with CHED. Sila po ang may pundo, ibibigay sa amin para ibibigay namin sa mga anak na mga OFWs na displaced at the rate of 30,000 per child, Mr. President. Kasi we are targeting 30,000 scholars, Mr. President.
That's good. Matanong lang because, marami rin nagtatanong dito. On my end, I get to give answers to questions which sometimes I have no knowledge after. So, tinatanong lang kita ngayon, if this thing crops up, then I would know what to answer. Pero maganda yan, but I hope it would be completed in time. Yung assistance, but ngayon ang payout mo is November 15.
November 15 ang Mr. President, ang start ng payout, Mr. President. Pero yung binigay niyo pong 5 billion, Mr. President, para sa mga OFWs, tuloy-tuloy na po, Mr. President. And as per our report this morning, we were already able to pay out 3.1 billion. Pero meron pa tayong naiwan and hopefully may didistribute pa namin yun, Mr. President.
What I'm really driving at is I want the money in the hands of the beneficiaries by Christmas time.
Before that, Mr. President, November 20 ang payout namin, Mr. President.
Sana dumating sa kanila para Pasko. Napakahirap ang buhay ngayon. At least kung may maitulong tayo ng konti, ibigay na natin. So I remember giving you so many billion. Wala naman akong wala akong masabi except that it should reach to the hands of the beneficiaries by Christmas time, at least December. May panggastos sa mga tao. Yun lang naman.
Opo, Mr. President. We will make sure na they get their benefits at the latest, Mr. President, November 20.
But, alam mo, I do not want to offend you. Pero hindi ikaw ang dapat dito si Halad. So, the earlier you disappear from the screen, the better. Kasi si Halad naghihintay na.
Ay, gano'n ba, Mr. President? Akala ko ako tinawag nyo, Mr.
Hindi mo na hindi mo pa panahon. Hindi mo pa panahon. General Halad.
Good evening, Mr. President, as well as to our cabinet secretaries and other officials. I will brief on the monitored effects of Super Typhoon Rolly, our preparedness and disaster response operations. Some of what I will be presenting were already explained in detail by our cabinet secretaries who spoke earlier. And so this presentation will provide an overview of the effects and actions of the national government agencies who are members of the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council. Next slide, please. So, a total of 12 regions were exposed or being affected by, or were affected by Typhoon Rolly. The total of affected population is 372,716 families, or 1,468,296 individuals. As of the latest report, there are currently 11 reported deaths and 2 injuries. These are from Albay, 9 dead, Catanduanes, 1, and Rizal, 1. While the reported injured are from Sorsogon and Quezon with 1 each. Assessment is still ongoing for the cost of damages. However, we are expecting major damages to agriculture, housing, and power sectors, and other infrastructures like roads, bridges, and flood controls. Other effects monitored are as shown. A total of 19 road sections and 4 bridges were affected by flooding, landslide, and uprooted trees and fallen utility posts in Region 2, 3, Calabarzon, Region 5, and Cordillera. 114 municipalities and cities in Region 5 are now experiencing water interruption, supply of water. Around 46 municipalities and cities in regions Calabarzon, Mimaropa, and Region 5 have experienced communications network interruption, and also 147 municipalities and cities in regions Calabarzon, Mimaropa, 5, and 8 are experiencing water interruption or outages. Here is a short video showing the flooding incident in Uwas Albay. In Bicol region, there were reported lahar flow in Albay. The affected localities are Tabaco, Santo Domingo, Camalig, and Ginubatan. Further, around 55,515 partially damaged and 20,661 totally damaged houses were reported in the Bicol region. Now on our preparedness measures for Super Typhoon Rolly. The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council Operations Center sent out 41 emergency alert and warning messages to the public. This is the kind of message that were sent by the telcos to all their subscribers in the areas we identified. And these messages has with it unique ringtones, different from the ordinary ringtones for SMS and calls. The kind of advisories released were typhoon warning, rainfall warning, storm surge warning, and gale force warning. We also conducted pre-disaster risk assessment meetings and emergency meetings attended by Pag-asa, who brief us on the update on the typhoon, as well as the other agencies that are involved in disaster response operations and preparedness. Together also with our Regional Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, who also made sure that the local DRM councils are also carrying out their preparedness meetings. We activated a physical and virtual emergency operation center in the NDRRMC and the Regional Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Councils affected by Super Typhoon Rolly. And now just briefly on the preparedness measures of the different agencies. The ILG issued the activation of operations listo, which highlights the preemptive evacuation that has to be conducted by the local government units. And on our response efforts, the Philippine Coast Guard assisted in the deployment of some of our personnel in Catanduanes. They also provided support to stranded individuals. The Bureau of Fire Protection provided rescue support to various affected local government units. DSWD is supplying the affected population with family food packs, and we are coordinating for the dispatch of a C-130 flight tomorrow to deliver additional family food packs for the Bicol region. DepEd reported the use of 1,077 schools with 5,404 classrooms as evacuation centers in Region 1, 2, 3, Calabarzon, Mimaropa, 5, 8, and the NCR region. The PNP placed on standby 18,905 personnel for search and rescue, as well as providing security in evacuation centers and making sure the law and order is maintained. The Department of Energy activated Power Restoration Rapid Deployment Task Force, or PRRD, Task Force Kapatid, to facilitate the rapid restoration of power in affected areas. Currently, situation assessment and coordination are being undertaken in order for the DOE to facilitate the deployment of teams under the task force who are composed mostly of personnel from unaffected electric cooperatives. The DICT has provided assistance by through the availability of communication assets as shown: satellite phones, VHF radio, and VSAT, as well as generator sets to power those equipment. And the DPWH conducted immediate clearing of affected roads and bridges. We also organized the Oplan Lorry logistics operations, and we have the following assets for our use: 8 aircraft from the Armed Forces of the Philippines, as well as 66 watercraft from the AFP and other units like the Coast Guard, VFP, and MMDA, and 40 land transportation assets. This morning, Mr. President, the Office of Civil Defense deployed an emergency telecommunications team to Catanduanes, and with the use of VSAT, we were able to establish contact with the local government unit of Catanduanes. Deployed in Catanduanes also are personnel from the Philippine Army being led by Brigadier General Adonis Bahao. And shown are some of the damages in Catanduanes taken by our team deployed there at the airport in Virac, as well as the streets. And based on our discussion with the governor and of Catanduanes and the report of our team thereat, here is our initial assessment. As reported by the governor, there are already 5 deaths in the province and 4 injured. Around 15,000 families were affected. 10,000 houses were totally damaged, while 3,000 were partially damaged. They have no water. The water district has no, because of the lack of power supply, is not operating, and water supply is only from the deep wells. And initial cost of damage to agriculture is about 600 million, 400 from their abaca, and for other crops is 200 million. Electricity and the telco service is likewise down. And shown are the immediate needs that was gathered. Supply of food for the evacuees. They only have 8,000 family food packs available. The governor is also requesting for GI sheets for the damaged houses and immediate supply of potable water. And we are considering the inclusion of bottled water to be delivered tomorrow. The restoration of communication and electricity, but this is already going to be addressed by DOE as well as by the telcos, Globe and Smart. They also have a concern on their transportation, and the governor is requesting for the resumption of ferry boat services between Catanduanes and the mainland of Bicol region. Now for our next steps or way ahead. As mentioned, we will be delivering family food packs to Catanduanes and Albay tomorrow. And we likewise will be deploying augmentation teams to conduct a rapid damage and needs assessment in Catanduanes. Likewise, may I also mention that we need to sustain the augmentation of resources to support the needs of those evacuees who will be staying for a longer period of time because of the damages to their houses. Also the provision of financial assistance like emergency shelter assistance by the SUD or Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development, and other assistance like the assistance to farmers by the Department of Agriculture. And lastly, Mr. President, although this will come in maybe 2 weeks, the planning for the rehabilitation and recovery to be led by OCD and NEDA, but to be participated by all the other members of the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, first with a post-disaster needs assessment and then the workshop to develop the rehabilitation and recovery plan. And in the RRP, the PPAs or projects, programs, and activities will be identified, as well as the funding requirements and the sources of funds for the rehabilitation and recovery of those areas affected by Super Typhoon Rolly. That's all, Mr. President. Thank you and good evening.
John Halad, I have a question for you. Yung bang sinabi mong lugar na the water works broke down, is there an ongoing repair or are things in the doldrums rather? Inaayos na ba ito? Walang mainom ang tao na tubig o hanggang ngayon ganoon pa rin?
Actually, that was mentioned by the governor of Catanduanes this afternoon, Mr. President. And the reason for the disruption to their water supply is only because of the disruption of power supply. So they are reliant on the availability of electrical power supply for the operations of the water district.
Now, another question. In this water supply, is it operated under LUWA or it's a local undertaking?
Operated by the water district, but I think LUWA is the national government agency supervising the water district or supporting.
Oh, well, I'm sure that one of them or any one of them are listening now. I'm directing LUWA to help go there and help repair the water system, have it function to function immediately. Wala tubig yung mga tao doon. Let it not be thing just to be talking about. I want to know if there is somebody there already working on it. That's about it. Thank you. Sino bang gusto magsalita?
Mr. President, Mon Lopez, DTI.
Again, identify yourself.
Mon Lopez po, DTI, Mr. President. Mon Lopez, DTI.
Ay, oh! Hindi kita nakita. Matagal na, sir. Kaya nakalimutan ko na yung mall. Can go ahead. You have the table.
Thank you, Mr. President. This will be a brief report on presyo, yung impact din ng Typhoon Rolly sa mga micro SME and business establishments, pati action taken, Mr. President. Number one, on presyo, generally po, dahil po napakabilis din ng bagyo, except for a few, number of roads na affected, as reported by Secretary Villar. Generally, passable po yung mga roads, kaya ang flow of goods and services ay nag-resume po kaagad, and ang distribution po nagtuloy rin. At ang inventaryo naman ng mga groceries at supermarkets po doon, karaniwan po ay mga 2 to 4 days. Ibig sabihin po, meron pong mga inventaryo kaagad. And therefore, generally, stable ang presyo. Stable prices dahil po stable naman sa ngayon ang supply of goods. Lalo na po dito po sa mga basic necessity and prime commodities. Meron din po tayong price freeze doon po sa na-declare na state of calamity as of today, yung Cavite because of Typhoon Rolly. And last week lang, because of Typhoon Quinta, meron din pong mga declared state of calamity sa Albay, Batangas, Oriental Mindoro, Marinduque. So yun po ay may mga price freeze din po sa mga lugar na yon. And then for the others not covered by price freeze, meron po tayong umiiral na suggested retail price system or SRP, kung saan ang mga presyo nakatakda na pagpunta sa groceries and supermarkets. At yun po mga presyo na yon ng mga basic necessity prime commodities, yung mga delata, instant noodle, kape, gatas. Since last year, September 2019, wala pong increase yung mga presyo na yon at hindi po talaga gumagalaw. Kaya stable po ang presyo pagdating po sa mga food manufactured products. Ang malikot lang po ang presyo dahil po sa supply and demand, yung mga agricultural products na nasa palengke. At nagtakda rin po ng SRP ang DA pagdating po sa mga agricultural products. Doon naman po sa mga business establishments, initial report po doon sa mga naapektuhan. Again, generally po, limited yung damages, almost all mga business establishment, except for doon badly hit areas like Catanduanes and some areas in Bicol, like Albay and Quezon, doon po yung may mga naapektuhang mga business establishment. Maganda rin po, so operational generally po, no? May maganda rin po nangyari kahapon dahil linggo. So nagkaroon na rin ng mga preemptive moves. In other words, maraming nag-declare ng half day or no work, kaya o kaya maaga nagsara. Kaya na protektahan yung mga empleyado doon at hindi na masyado ring na-damage yung mga business establishment, except for yung nakita natin sa video na may isang mall na nasira sa Bicol na pinasok hanggang loob dahil may nabasag na salamin. Pero maliban doon, generally ay operational po ang business establishment today and especially starting tomorrow. Today being a holiday. Except for those affected badly, lalo na dito sa Albay, Catanduanes, and Quezon, the rest are okay. Yung iba affected pa ng power outages at i-report po mamaya ni Secretary Cusi. Yung mga power outages reported to me ay meron pa sa Albay, Catanduanes, Camarines Norte, Camarines Sur. Of course, isa-isa pong bumabalik ang power. Mare-report po ni Secretary Cusi. Number 3, lastly, yung actions taken. So ang DTI po, starting today, lumabas na yung mga tao rin natin at continuing yung monitoring supply, especially yung mga presyo. Kailangan walang gumalaw dahil wala price freeze lalo na sa lugar na yon at yung SRP supposedly hindi gumalaw. Ang food manufacturing companies, kinausap na rin po natin to alert them to, again, replenish quickly yung mga inventaryo, yung mga supply ng produkto para hindi magkaroon ng kaguluhan or pagpapanic buying. Typically usually after mga calamities, tayo ay gumagawa ng diskwento caravan kung saan nagkakaroon ng mga paninda doon, ng mga basic necessity prime commodities na diskwento. Dahil ka-partner natin ng mga private companies na gumagawa o nagmamanufacture ng mga produkto na to. At sinabay rin natin ang DA para dun sa mga agriculture products para may bagsakan center din doon ng mga agriculture products at saka grocery products doon po sa naapektuhang lugar. Ang target po namin, ito yung action to be taken starting this week, 2 to 3 na diskwento caravan or 2 to 3 na LGUs covered per week. So para at marami avail ng mga produkto na to at discounted prices. Other assistance provided, we always provide livelihood kits dun sa mga micro-entrepreneur na nawala ang paninda o naapektuhan talaga yung kanilang mga paninda, lalo na yung nasa palengke. Livelihood kits at saka microfinancing na meron pa rin tayo because of COVID-19. Kada-download na po nung pondo, salamat sa DBM. At tuloy po yung ating microfinancing sa mga SME. Ito po yung kasama sa Bayanihan 2 na meron pong 4 billion na pwede hong ipautang ang TTI Small Business Corporation for MSMEs in general. At saka po another 6 billion para sa tourism kila Secretary Berna na mga micro SME sa tourism sector. So 4 plus 6 billion po yan. Lastly po, we have talked to companies at saka yung mga hardware para yung construction materials makapagpadala ka agad doon. Kasama rin to sa ipoprovide na may diskwento para mapalitan yung mga naapektuhan ng mga bahay doon. Lalo na yung bubong, semento at saka bakal. Yun lang po, Mr. President. Magandang gabi po.
Salamat po for the report. Kung kasi wala na, I'd like to
Sen Kusi po. Mr. President.
Yes,
Energy, Al Kusi po.
My general, my favorite general. Si Al Kusi pa? Alcosi then Secretary Simato.
Thank you, Mr. President. Starting last Friday po, nagkaroon na po tayo ng coordination meeting, lahat po ng industry players. This is the task force on energy resiliency that was formed during your administration. And we coordinated the steps and the actions that we are going to take. And I am happy to report to you that since Saturday evening, lahat po 24 hours monitor were being undertaken. Sa ngayon po, kaninang umaga po nag-report po ako dito at as of 6 a.m. sa areas po ng Batangas, Bulacan, Laguna, Cavite, Rizal, Metro Manila, there were 53,800 consumers or customers na wala pong kuryente. Kanina pong alauna, it went down already po to 33,000. And as of 6 p.m. today, it's down to 19,000. So the people on the field are working 24 hours and hopefully this will be restored soon. Now in Region 3, the Bicol area, the Albay, and Catanduanes, Masbate area. Ang Masbate po, partly restored na po yun. Ang Catanduanes, Albay, Bicol area po, no? Wala pa po silang kuryente doon. Totally wala pa pong kuryente because ang atin pong transmission line and distribution lines, no, that connect to the customers na sira po. And as of 6 p.m. today, there were two transmission lines. The transmission line from Tayabas to Naga and from Naga to Concepcion have been restored, and this will partly energize the Naga area. So, as a safety precaution naman po, in terms of power generation, nag-voluntary or intentionally shut down 2,199 megawatts or 6 power plants. Intentionally, they went on shutdown as a precautionary measures, but they are available. Ngayon po, dun sa mga dam na nai-report kanina, all dams po, no, except for Ambuklao and for Binga. Hindi po tayo no spilling operation po, except for this Ambuklao and Binga. We are doing a spilling operation, regulated spilling operation po, but it will not cause any flooding. As reported earlier also, wala po namang naging damage sa mga dams. Dito po naman sa NPC, sa SPAG power plants, no? Dito po sa island provinces natin, wala pa kanina pong hapon, wala pa pong na-establish na communication to Catanduanes and Camarines Norte and Camarines Sur. But as reported kanina po ni Secretary Roque, meron na po, pero wala pa po akong natatanggap na report sa mga cooperatives po at sa mga distribution company. Sa Albay naman po, Masbate area at Romblon area, standby na po ang ating po mga genset to energize. Ganun din po sa Marinduque and Quezon area. Sa transmission line po, nasabi ko na po kanina, 2 pong transmission line ang na-connecta na po, and that will partly power Naga. Sa distribution naman po, sa mga kooperatiba po natin, there are 45 cooperatives that are affected. Normal operation na po 25, and number of province affected po is 25. Ngayon, sa estimated damage that have been submitted by NEA, it's 2.8 billion po ang na-damage sa mga poste at sa mga linya. So, ando naman po dito sa atin po, dito sa Region 4A at saka dito po sa Metro Manila, 19,000 na lang po ang ating i-energize. Yun pong kaninang task force kapatid. Ano po itong task force kapatid po, ito ang bayanihan po ng mga different cooperatives where those unaffected cooperatives help to restore powers in the affected areas. Sumasama rin po dito sa task force kapatid na ito, including po yung mga distribution utilities like Meralco, Aboitiz Power of in Davao, no? Pumupunta po sila rito at nakikipagtulungan po. Now, on the oil supply po, meron po tayong enough supply in the affected areas, and based on the inventory report, it will last for 22 days. No, we have 22 days stock. And as reported also po by Secretary Lopez, nagpapa-effect po tayo sa petroleum products ng price freeze. Pero considering po nagpa-fluctuate ang price ng oil, and considering that last week po bumaba ang presyo ng oil sa international market, we're expecting the price of petroleum product this week to go down. So, but we are going to implement the price reduction, but no, we will not allow any price increase. Ngayon po naman, bilang po isang chairman po ng CORD, na-assign po ninyo ako bilang isang CORD chairman ng Region 4B, nabisita ko na rin po ang affected areas ng Typhoon Quinta, at sa Mindoro po nagkaroon po tayo ng coordination meeting sa gobernador at different regional directors. At ang naapektuhan pong mga mangingisda na nasira po yung mga bangka at yung mga nawalan po ng bahay, nakapag-coordinate na po tayo kay Ed Gongona po ng BIFAR, kay Administrator Gongona, at kay Administrator June Escalada po ng NHA, na para po matugunan ang pangangailangan po ng mga mangingisda at ng mga nasiraan ng bahay. Doon po sa damage po ng Quinta, dapat po sana restore na lahat ng power by Sunday, yesterday po, no? I visited the area last October 27 and we have given them 5 days to restore the power, but unfortunately dinaanan na naman po sila ng bagyong Rolly. Kaya medyo maantala na naman po ang pag-restore ng power doon, but makakasa po kayo.
Secretary Jose, may call on Roy Simato. Roy, it's your turn.
Good evening, Mr. President. In compliance to your directive for a initial investigation of complaints of some people there in Albay about quarrying. My initial investigation, Mr. President, that during the height of the storm, the typhoon, floodwaters down the slope of the volcano fall down on the 3 rivers where 11 operators, quarry operators were operating, and some of these operators left their stockpiles in the middle of these rivers. Kaya nung bumaba yung tubig malakas, dala-dala yung lahar, pati yung mga stockpiles nila doon, boulders, ay kasama na. And the rivers, nagsolen yung river, umabot doon sa mga residential houses sa bank of the river. 4 po ang namatay, 3 na crash at saka na-buried ng lahar na aggregates. Itong 11 permits na binigyan ng itong quarry operators, binigay po ito ng provincial government. Sila kasi nagbibigay ng permits sa mga nagkwa-quarry doon. And because of this, Mr. President, will still be continuing the investigation, finding out culpability itong mga permits na binigay ng mga operators nito. And at the same time, I directed the suspension of all these 11 or 12 operators, including suspending all quarry operations around the volcano habang mayroon pa itong mga sumusunod na mga typhoons para naman ma-prevent na itong mga maaring mangyari uli. And at the same time, Mr. President, ay investigahan natin pati yung procedure nilang pagkwari, kasi dapat hindi nila ganyan nilalagay yung kanilang mga stockpiles na doon sa river mismo, kasi nabawasan na tuloy yung volume doon sa pagbagsak pababa ng tubig sa ibabaw. So that's my report, Mr. President, kasi we were informed that you gave instruction for a probe on the quarrying operations in Albay. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Roy, that is correct. I just before coming here, I came from Albay, and yung chopper ko binaba ko sa Ginubatan, and so I talked to the residents there, and ang complaint nila ganito. This is their agony. Every time there is a typhoon, there is always the danger, or it happens that the stones and the boulders and the lahar always go down the river and bring destruction to the habitation of people. Sabi nila, paulit-ulit na talaga to, and nobody cared to answer for this. I'm not blaming anything or anybody, whether it is really ito kasing it's also needed for constructions. When you build, you need this rocks and crushed rocks or whatever. Kaya without really condemning the act itself of quarrying, I hope that I was thinking that it should have the proper environmental clearance sana. So pag wala, then I think that you'll have to stop it. In the meantime, mayroon pa naman bagyo coming one after the other. In the meantime that we are suffering distractions, it might do well for them also to look for another site. Ganoon na lang. Yun ang...
Yes, Mr. President. In the meantime, I directed the suspension of these 12 operators, including the suspension of all quarrying around the volcano, lalo na ngayon tagulan. So, para ma-prevent ulit yung maaring mangyari ganito. Pangalawa, Mr. President, I told them to be very strict in the implementation of quarrying. Kasi hindi mo dapat pwedeng ilagay yung stockpile mo dito sa river itself kasi mabawasan na yung volume ng dumaan na tubig doon. So dapat dito sa quarrying area talaga authorized na pwede. So in the meantime, I will suspend them and in fact, we have to close some of them kung culpable sila rito sa nangyari ito, Mr. President.
Okay. It's your decision. Sinong susunod rather? Anybody? Kasi kung wala na...
Mr. President?
Yes.
Mr. President, good evening. Wendell?
May pera ka ba? Kung wala kang pera, huwag kang magsalita. Yes, Secretary Abisado.
Marami kasing nagtatanong kung may pera pa ba daw ang gobyerno sa gitna nitong mga kalamidad na kinakaharap natin.
Kaya nga
Gusto ko lang ipaalam, Mr. President, na ang estado po ng ating NDRRMF funds o yung tinatawag na National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Fund ay stands at 3.622 billion pa po after we have augmented this with 5 billion based on Bayanihan 2. Ang total po na budget ng NDRIM for the year ay nasa 16 billion at nagamit na po ang iba dyan kaya nag-augment tayo at base din po sa General Appropriations Act ang mga sumusunod na mga departamento ay nilaanan ng tinatawag na Quick Response Fund. Ang DA po ay 1.5 billion, ang DepEd 2.1 billion, ang DOH 600 million, ang DPWH 1 billion, ang DSWD 1.25 billion, at ang National Electrification Administration 100 million. Ito po yung pinupunan natin pag na-deplete na at para lang sa ganun makasiguro tayo na at any given time kung may kalamidad ay makakapag-responde kaagad ito mga departamento natin ito. At awa ng Diyos sa pagka ngayon pa po ay hindi pa naman kami nakakatanggap ng additional request galing sa kanila. Subalit we expect that in due time hihingi sila ng dagdag dahil siguradong madideplete na rin yung punto nila. At itong mga department na ito ay siguradong direkta lang nila sa akin dahil under the law, hindi na po kailangan na iakyat sa inyo at maaprubahan na po namin kaagad para madalian lang po. Yung bigger requirements po natin as a result of and the effects of Super Typhoon Rolly ay nandiyan naman si Senator Bong. We will work this out with Congress kung paano po na matugunan nito
dahil ongoing pa naman yung usapin about the 2021 national budget. Tingnan po natin kung pwede pong magawa ng paraan and the Congress will understand the needs of our people in relation to the eventual passage and approval of the 2021 national budget po. So yan lang po muna sa ngayon. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Wendell. Anybody else? Kasi pag wala na, may gusto akong gawin. You know, may babasahin kasi ako. But before that, alam mo, ang tao kasi, alam nila na there's not enough to go around with money. Talagang kulang. Walang there's no country in this world that has a surplus of money. Talagang meeting both ends meet because the needs of society, the needs for roads, the need for teachers, classroom, lahat. Patong ng patong yan. Every year, it increases and it is exponential ang gasto. Sabi nila minsan, under the mango tree ng kaklase, we've been correcting it and we're trying to still do it until now. Ang importante na kasi dito, Wendell, na malaman ng tao na may pera para dito ngayon. Kunwari itong pangyayari ngayon. That there is money coming for them to use. Hindi sila maghirap. Talagang stretching to the limit yung not only the money but the agony ang pag nila. So, kung alam lang nila na may pera tapos nagastos ito ng tama at dumating doon ito sa mga beneficiaries, yun lang naman kailangan nila. They know that there is money. Pinag-usapan natin ngayon, we have been transparent. Yan, sinabi mo. Now, that's good. That, lahat nagsasabi, may pera itong departamento ko. For as long as we spend it for the purpose for which was intended to be appropriated. Ang tao walang Ang masakit sa taong bayan, yung alam nila na may pera na dapat para sa kanila, in this case, the assistance, tapos walang dumating at pinordoy, somebody goes out to embezzle or abscond with the money, yan ang masakit. Ngayon, may babasahin ako. And later on, may I just also address myself to Secretary Villar. Si Secretary Villar is an honest man. Not only that he is honest, he has money. Siya, may pera siya. And I do not question his integrity or loyalty. If not, bakit nandito pa ba siya sa cabinet? Meaning to say that kailangan ko siya. I need his expertise, his talent. Ang itong mga corruption, baski sinong administrasyon to, nandyan na gaya ng PhilHealth. Long before itong mga tao na ito na dumating dyan, nandyan na yan, naka-capsulize ng corruption. Now, one of them, gusto ko nga sabihin, mga kaibigan ko, may warning ako sa kanila. Sabi ko na they want to join government. Tapos sabihin ko, so what is your expertise? Your engineer. So malagay ka dyan. So sinasabi ko, yung sa PhilHealth, ang mga kilala kong nilagay ko dyan, sinabi ko na bantay kayo dyan. Bantay kayo kasi delikado yung lugar na. I've been hearing so many stories about corruption sa PhilHealth. Na ito lumabas na ngayon sa ombudsman. They are suspended for 6 months. They are being investigated. And if there's enough evidence, they will be prosecuted in court. And eventually they will land in jail. And that could be a problem, not only for the family and everybody. But as my sworn duty, itong mga tao na ito, mga kilala ko yung iba, understand that I have a duty to perform, and that is to inform the public, lalo na itong PhilHealth. Ngayon, as of August 19, 2020, that's the dated order, itong mga tao na ito suspended na and wala na sa PhilHealth. Celestina Maria Jude de la Serna. Third is Ruben Jan Basa. Fourth is Dennis S. Mas. And Shirley Domingo. Rodolfo del Rosario. Raul Cominic Badilla. Israel Pargas. Angelito Grande. Lawrence Mijares, Laila Tuason, Clementine Bautista, Eugenio Donatos. Another order coming out from the ombudsman, ganon pa rin. Sanction is in suspension plus they are being investigated. Arnel De Jesus, Renato Limsiaco, Israel Francis Pargas, Gregorio Ruloda, then Imelda Trinidad de Vera Pe, Lolita Tuliao, Gemma Sibukaw, and Lailani Padua. Sa immigration, sinasabi ko sa inyo, uupakan ko. Sa immigration, Erwin Ortañez, number 1, Grifton Medina, Glenn Comia, Ben Lado Guevara, Daniv Bensol, De Leon Albao, Arlan Edward Mendoza, Anthony Lopez, Cecil Orozco, Dennis Robles, Bradford Allen So, Vincent Brian Alas, Rodolfo Magbuhos Jr., German T. Ruben, Gabriel Estacio, Ralph Ryan Garcia, Paul B. Villanueva, Abdul Fahad Kalaka, Danilo Judor, Mark Macababad, Aurelio Lucero, George Between, Saluhudin Hajinor, Cherry Pie Ricolcol, Chevy Chase Manion, Carl Jordan Perez, Abdul Hasif Ajis Basar, Jeffrey Dale Ignacio, Juan Carlos Gomez, Clint John Simin, Jason Abelde, itong Clint Simene pa si Mene, Jason Abelde, Aslia Maruhon, John Christian de Villa, Jessica Ann Salazar, Jennifer Timbrasa, Robert Michael Sarmiento, Maria Victoria Hugno, Catherine Mendoza, Lawrence Ali Bontia, Paul Borja, Hamza Pakasum, Manuel Sarmiento, Fidel Mendoza, and Dimple Mayumi Malyare. Ito yung mga tao na initially, the investigation is still going on. So, wala pa tayong na masabi na complete. And there is one guy, I've been really wondering, matagal na eh. He was working sa customs as a regular employee. But you know what? At the same time, he was working as a board member of DBP. Hindi ko talaga maintindihan ang kagago ng tao. I mean, so brazen ang... Parang pagtingin nila talaga wala ng utak itong nakatingin sa kanila. So, he is out. I'm sure this guy will go to prison. If the case is pursued, maraming kaso to, sigurado. Patong ang kaso nito, from perjury to falsification of public document, making false entries. Marami to. Hindi ko na lang basahin, sa customs, 20 na ang dismiss talaga. 4 ang suspendedo, siguro iniimbestiga pa. 4 reprimanded lang. 135 investigated by the BOC Customs Intelligence and Investigation Service. So, iniimbestiga pa. 45 charged with administrative cases before the BOC and Legal Service. Now, dito sa administrative, I'm not satisfied. There has to be a law being as ganito charged with administrative. I'd like to call the customs na criminal pati administrative talaga. And dito sa ito namang sa PhilHealth na yung it's what I cannot understand. So I'm giving you only 3 days to process the paper. Itong cheque na ito, hinold nila 1 million without any plausible reason why or any reason at all that is sensible. Wala. Ito yung parang trabaho nila, ayaw nilang trabaho. It's either indolence or stupidity. So, mayroon pa. The next round is will be by December. Many will lose their jobs. Many will be separated from government. Many will face prosecution. And many will go to jail. Yan ang para sabihin ninyo na sa pastillas 40 na Tapos dito, pinatawag ko sila. Di ba sabi ko noon, kung mahilig ka ng pera, papakain ko talaga sa'yo. Yan ako. Sa kabastos mo. You will eat money in front of me. Yan ang style ko. It is not nice. It is wrong. Could even be a criminal act, but just the same, I'll do it. Sabi ko sa inyo, itong pastillas, marami to. Paabot ito ng mga 70. Wala ka pa dyan, Art. Wala ka pa dyan, Mark. Nandyan na yan sila, matagal na yan. Pero tayong pasahero noon, alam na natin. Kaya kami taga-probinsya, we travel almost with regularity. Bakasyon, All Souls Day. Kaya nga ako nung nauwi, itong mga ugok naman, sabi wala ako. I was waiting for the typhoon to pass. Then lumipad ako. Punta ako kanina sa kung wala kayong patay, okay lang. Kami may mga patay, kailangan umuwi kami doon sa amin. Pero ngayon, nandito na ako. Yung sabi na wala ako dito kasi wala sa probinsya. So, what's the problem? Ang mga papilis, pinadala ninyo dyan. Tapos, pirmahan ko, padala ko uli. Machine lang naman yan . So, the fact na wala ako nandito sa pagbagyo, do you want me to stand doon sa White Sun ni Roy, si Mato, just to show that I am here? Kaming lahat wala because may bagyo . Ngayon, I was waiting for just yung tail end ng bagyo. Then, lumipad ako. So yan, as I've said, I will dedicate the last 2 years or whatever is left of my term to fight corruption. Marami ito. Right, itong famous is customs. Yung sa immigration. May ang mga dyan, official, they are allowed 10 or 20 na pasok na walang Pero siyempre, hihingi ng pera yan doon sa... Yan ang racket dyan. Maski yung mga opisyal dyan, well, I am excluding Jagger. Kaya ako nilagay siya dyan ni Sir Kingwell. Marami na siyang napaalis. I said corruption talagang hindi ko matanggap kasi pati kami dito damay lahat. Kaya nga pagdating panahon 2 generations from now, hindi man sabihin ng tao na ulitin ko napaka-corrupt yung kay Ramos, corrupt kay Arroyo, corrupt kay... Wala. Ang sabihin na yung dumaan ng panahon ni Duterte at Benedicto, napaka-corrupt. Dali kami lahat. Ang tao magtingin sa amin, punta kami dyan sa kapihan. Cabinet member yan, yun, siguro mayaman na yan. Well, let me cut the belief. Pakita ko talaga sa inyo na kukulong ko yun. Marami to. So, idagdagan ko pa yan. Itong mga nasa, alam mo, totoo lang, itong mga tao dito harap ko, cabinet member, most of them ayaw magtrabaho sa kabinete. So it was a great, si Defense Secretary, nandoon na ito sa Amerika. Pinapabalik ko, ayaw. I'm okay here. Sabi ko, kaibigan tayo, kailangan matulong, bumalik ka. Roy Simato, retired na yan. Pag-landing ko sa Leyte, nandoon, sinalubong niya ako. Ay, Leyte, Atike. Sabi ko sa kanya, bakit ka nandito sa heartland ng Ilonggo, ng Ilocano ka man? Sabi niya, taga dito yung asawa ko. Sabi ko. Pero alam ko na, nakita ko na. Walang araw. Talaga kasi may tiwala ako. Pero itong mga tao na ito, si Roy, wag na, retire na ako. Enjoy na lang kami. So with Secretary Espero, sabi na, tatakbo ka ba ba? Tatakbo ka, kakampanya na naman kami. Kasi we have our political affiliations or predilections, if you want to use the word. So, yun. I hope we have explained to the people what we have done to meet the challenges of the moment. And I hope that you have clearly understood that the money that we are spending will be really spent for the people. And we will hold ourselves accountable for it. So huwag kayong mag-alala-alala. Tatrabaho tayong lahat. Maraming salamat po.